NXT starts off with Tatum Paxley. She was cutting a promo. She was basically mentioning what happened last week and the 6 women tag match that they had. Ended up saying that everything is her fault and that she was acting irrational and that she's making these poor decisions. That she needs to start listening to Izzy Dame about not being so willing to just give away opportunities. Izzy is trying to convince Tatum that she still needs to, just hold off on giving opportunities to everyone, that she needs to protect being NXT Women's Champion, that she needs to just, try to not try to defend the title as much. But Tatum is feeling the opposite, that she still wants to be a fighting champion, but also wants to listen to Izzy. They're going back and forth. Tatum Pax is a bit confused. Then you get not Tatum Pax, Fatal Influence. They come out, and you got JC Jane playing mind games. JC Jane, of course, wants another shot at the NXT Women's Championship and ends up saying that Izzy Dame is right, playing both sides, ends up saying that Izzy Dame is right, that you shouldn't just give opportunities to everybody, but I am a person that actually deserves it. She ends up mentioning how she's carried the women's division, carried the NXT brand, and ends up saying that, but Tatum Paxley is also the champion, that she needs to make her own choices and think for herself and not follow other people. And she ends up saying that Izzy doesn't know what it's like to be champion due to her never holding gold. JC continues to play mind games in Tatum Paxley's head. Izzy was trying to refuse the offer of giving JC Jane a title shot. Tatum Paxley was a bit confused, but Tatum Paxley eventually ends up giving her the title shot. So next week, we're going to get Tatum Paxley versus JC Jane rematch at Gold Rush next week, which should be very interesting. Very interesting how that plays out. I like what they've been doing with Tatum Paxley. I love the story they've been telling of her trying to be this fighting champion, her trying to find her own path, her trying to actually make her own choices instead of constantly doing what other people say and constantly following other people, her becoming her own person to a degree and not relying so much on other people, where Izzy is trying to manipulate her, which is kind of weird because this is one of the rare scenarios where I'm actually kind of on the heel side of which is Izzy Dame, because I actually agree with Izzy Dame's logic here. Like, logically speaking, it does make sense to not give everyone a title shot and not to defend it that often. If I was champion, I would be doing the same thing. But Tatum Paxley acts more like a babyface, so it makes more sense why she acts the way she acts. But very interesting to see how this all plays out. Tatum Paxley, of course, is going to retain, but the match should be really good. Their last match was really great, so very interesting to see how they could if they could one up it. But nonetheless, I really love the story they're telling here. Fatal Influence still feels like a credible threat. I thought that once JC Jane lost, that they was probably going to disappear from TV or potentially not look as dominant, but they still feel like a credible threat that could potentially win the NXT Championship. So I'm very interested to see how this all plays out. We end up getting a NXT Speed Championship match between El Grande Americano versus Jasper Troy. This was a fine match. Jasper Troy picked up the victory. Curious to see what actually happens. I'm not going to have the highest hopes for the Speed Championship, but I am hoping that they treat it somewhat like they're doing with the women's. Because when Soruka first won that Speed Championship, they immediately put it on a PLE. They constantly have some type of story with it. Right now, they even have a story with it still involving Soruka to a degree with Zarya and Fallon Henley. I hope they continue that trend with the men's, but I don't have that much hope for it. But we'll see how this plays out. I'm just more shocked that Jasper Troy won this, mainly because this is a speed championship, and Jasper Troy isn't someone I picture of being in a speed type setting. He is a very slow style, slow paced wrestler, but he does make it work. So we'll see how this all plays out. Afterwards, we end up getting Thea Hale versus Alba Fire. This match ended up becoming a thing due to Ethan Page and Chelsea Green ended up agreeing to the match due to them wanting some type of advantage for their match next week against Joe Hendry and Thea Hale for the AAA mixed tag team titles. I like the story. I like what they've been doing here with this feud. I've been enjoying it. I'm just happy Thea Hale is getting TV time. She's one of the rare people that I don't understand why she's not getting TV time. I really don't. Well, I could kind of understand it because NXT is kind of booked, to be fair, kind of stacked right now. But with Lash Legend being on the main roster, she could kind of fill in that void to a degree, not in a heel sense, but be another woman they could use. But I'm interested to see what they do. Hopefully, they continue to use Thea Hale because I love Thea Hale. I think she's one of the more underrated women in NXT. I think she has a lot of potential. I understand the whole Chase U storyline kind of ruined her momentum to a degree because it seems like they didn't know what to do with her. But I hope she gets more TV time because she's really good in the ring and she's a very interesting character. What this is going to lead to? I don't see Joe Hendry and Thea Hale winning the AAA mixed tag team titles. I just don't think it makes sense. Plus, Chelsea Green just won the U.S. Championship, so I think they're going to run with her and Ethan being double champions for a bit. But the match should be very entertaining, and the feud has been entertaining so far. So I like what they did. I like what they did here overall. I'm interested to see what how the match plays out next week. All right, we end up getting a quick Blake Monroe segment, and this segment was amazing. She ends up having a sit down interview with herself, and she basically has two personalities. She basically has, like, she was wearing different, like one Blake Monroe was wearing white, the other one was wearing black. She's This is very weird. It's kind of hard to describe. You got this describe this in like the devil on her shoulder, or like the good version, the bad version, or you could think of it as kind of like her self-conscious speaking to her. Because you have one side, which is basically this confident woman who thinks that she has everything under control, and the other side, the one that's dressed in black, is telling her what she needs to do, what she needs to do to retain the championship, telling her basically all of the, I guess, insecurities that she really has about herself. You have the white version, thinks that she's basically this confident woman, that she has everything under control, where the one in the black is telling her that, look, you don't have everything under control. You need to be more ruthless. You need to be more assertive. You need to really take out Soruka, that you're not really that confident of beating Soruka. You know how good Soruka is, and that the only way you're going to beat her is if you allow me to help you. I like this. This is kind of giving me, like, I want to say split personalities. Like I said, this kind of gives me like that good and evil. But to be fair, Blake Monroe is not really. She's a heel, so I don't know how that good and evil analogy works, but I like this, to be honest. I actually hope they continue with this, because this is actually fucking genius, if I'm being honest. I was very entertained by this segment. This was great. I guess you could say like one is like her darker evil half, I guess. That's the best way to describe it. But this segment was great, to be honest with you. They're gonna also have that match between her and Soruka next week at Gold Rush. Gold Rush is looking really good. Week 1. Week 2 is looking kind of mid, I ain't gonna lie. But week 1 is stacked. So I'm very interested to see how this all plays out. But this segment was amazing. Next, we end up getting a quick Javon Evans promo. Javon Evans basically ends up saying that next week at Gold Rush, him and Leon Slater are going to go after Dark State for the NXT Tag Team titles. Dark State come out. They try to attack Javon Evans with the numbers game, but Javon Evans was prepared. He ends up having Leon Slater come out to have his back, and they take out Dark State. I'm interested to see how this plays out, and I actually would not be mad if Javon Evans and Leon Slater win the tag titles. This gives something Javon Evans to do, gives him like a filler side quest thing. This could be his first actual NXT championship, and I actually don't mind it. I think it would be kind of cool. Plus, this brings a lot more options, if I'm being honest. Now, to be fair, they could kind of do the same thing that I'm about to mention with Dark State, but with Leon actually being TNA champion, they could easily cross over between brands. Now, you could say Dark State could do that as well, because I think Dark State have already crossed over from TNA. But still, and plus, I think this makes tag division more interesting if Javon and Leon Slater win the tag titles as well, in my opinion. Because based off the tag team division, majority of the teams in NXT are heels, if I'm not mistaken. Because you have the Calling, OTM, Dark State. And then the other two are Chase U and then Hank Attack. So yeah, logically speaking, it would just be to balance it out. It would make more sense if you just have Javon Evans and Leon Slater become champs. That way, more heels can face them. That makes sense. But I wouldn't be mad if Dark State won either, because Dark State do got the numbers advantage. So this could be very interesting either way. But the tag team division NXT is shaping up quite nicely. They're actually improving it week by week. So I'm very interested to see how this plays out. We'll get a quick speed qualifying match. I'm not going to go over it. It's Fallon Henley versus, I think her name is Skylar. I forgot her last name. But she wins. Fallon Henley was going to win. She's going to face Zarya in the finals next week, Gold Rush. I'm very interested to see how that plays out, because you can really tell a story either way. You have Fatal Influence going after all the gold, because you have Fallon Henley going after the Speed Championship, JC Jane going after the NXT Women's Championship, and you have Lainey Reed going after the Evolve Women's Championship. Now, you could tell multiple stories here. You could tell two stories. You can either tell the story of Zarya winning the championship for Soruka, winning that Speed Championship, and you could tell the downfall of Fatal Influence with all of them losing their championship matches. Or you could potentially have Fallon Henley beat Zarya. Zarya fails to get the championship failed to get the Speed Championship for Soruka. Soruka is going to lose her championship match. This caused a rift in their friendship, building up that rivalry. Then you have Fallon Henley winning the Speed Championship, Laney Reed could potentially win the Evolve Championship as well. This causes a rift where they look like JC Jane shouldn't be the leader anymore because it went from Fallon Henley being the leader to JC Jane being the leader. So now with JC Jane not having gold and them two having gold, you could cause that little issue, that rivalry as well. This could go a lot of ways. You could even potentially have all three members of Fatal Influence holding gold, which I ain't gonna lie, I kind of low key want that to happen, but not at the expense of Tatum Paxton. Tatum Paxton just won this title. I want to enjoy this reign as long as possible. But the possibilities are endless. I'm very excited to see how this plays out. Now, I will mention this quick match. Tavion versus Josh Briggs. Well, the match wasn't quick, but this was a really good match. Tavion won. He won cleanly. Don't know what's next for this because I'm assuming this is the end of the rivalry. So I don't know what's really next for Tavion or Josh Briggs, but I like Tavion Heights. I think he has tremendous amount of potential. I hope he continues to get consistent TV time because I think he can be really used mainly in the mid card. The main thing he needs to work on is his character, but to be fair, they haven't really gave him much of a character to really develop, to be fair, but that's the main thing he really needs to work on, but I think he has tremendous amount of potential, and Josh Briggs has been doing great heel work, so interested to see what's next for them, but I think this is the end of the feud. I wouldn't mind if this continued, but I think the feud probably should end here. Then we get the main event. Trick Williams versus Ricky Saints for the NXT Championship last man standing match. This match was a banger. This match was great. This match was everything it needed to be. Just pure chaos. This didn't even feel like a wrestling match. This felt like a fight. This didn't even feel like a wrestling match. This felt like a fight. This match was great. Had a lot of cool spots. It was 1-6 spot where they was fighting in the crowd. And you got Trick Williams standing on top of like the little barricade, whatever thing, or like the little rail that's in the crowd area. Ricky Saints is spearing him from the crowd and onto the announce table, which was very sick. Towards the end, you end up getting both of them fighting. Both of them are getting up at the same time, holding each other. And then Ricky Saints just pushes Trick Williams on the ground and retains the NXT Championship. Now, I will say the ending was a bit anticlimactic because it was like they was both holding each other while they was getting up. The ref was counting, and then Trick Williams basically just got shoved to the ground, and then that was it. Kind of didn't like that ending, but after Ricky Saints won, we get the return of Oba Femi, which I like and I don't like because this kind of ruins him potentially being in the John Cena tournament, which he probably wasn't going to be in it anyway, but it's like I was kind of hoping he would be in it because we all know that Oba is only returning to lose to Ricky. That's my only issue. He did the same thing with Tony D'Angelo. He did the same thing with Tony D'Angelo. When he lost the North American Championship, he waited a few weeks, came back, lost again. It's the same formula that they doing with Ricky Saints right now. That's my only issue. But if he is going to be in the John Cena tournament, why would he lose to Ricky twice only to be in the tournament? It just doesn't make sense. So I don't think he's going to be in the tournament. We'll see how this all plays out. But overall, this was a really good episode of NXT. Really enjoyed it. You guys let me know your overall thoughts, opinions down below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.